I have a new book out called Godmindfamily, The Human Mind, Behaviour, Symptoms, the Family, Society, Politics, and God's Kingdom Explained. It's available free on my website, robertensor.com, spelled Ensor, and to buy on Amazon in ebook and paperback formats via the links in the description below. Family therapist Murray Bowen developed the concept of self-differentiation. Differentiation was basically Bowen's measure of how emotionally mature people are, the extent to which they are influenced by others and by their own emotions. Indeed, there are two components of differentiation: differentiation of self from others and differentiation of the intellectual system from the emotional system. Bowen and Kerr would pay more attention to the facts of patients' relationships than what they said about themselves, because they believed that how patients described themselves was often unreliable. So when Kerr assessed a patient's emotional functioning or differentiation, he paid more attention to their relationship status, their employment status and experience, family history, and educational attainment than he did to what they actually said to him. Of course, facts and actions should not be ignored, but to dismiss what someone is saying to you simply because of their lifestyle is biased. Kerr and Bowen saw educational attainment as a key marker of differentiation of self. But in the 21st century UK and America, at least, university has been correctly regarded as an ivory tower selling largely useless degrees that keeps people from contact with the real world. So there are some issues with the definition. Of course, it is unlikely that your lazy cousin Xander, who lives with his mother and plays video games all day, would have no anxiety problem, but it is possible if he deeply expected not to have significant anxiety. If, however, Xander goes around expecting to get anxious because he lives with his mother due to something he read or was told, he will definitely be anxious. Likewise, if he expects to smoke or have some other dysfunction as a result of his family situation, he will smoke. Adults who live with their parents tend to have low differentiation because they have a lifestyle that is correlated, albeit imperfectly, with emotional fusion, a fear of responsibility and romantic love, and limiting beliefs about what it is possible for them to do. Of course, there are exceptions. An adult who lives with his or her parents can be better differentiated than a married parent, provided the former is able to control their emotions. Murray Bowen noted how difficult it was to maintain self and staying with one's parents and how easy it was to slip back into old patterns. Accordingly, someone who can avoid fusion while living with their parents would find it easier to maintain high self-differentiation with a partner. The family of origin is the ideal training ground for self-differentiation. Getting married and having kids is associated with a higher degree of self-confidence than living with parents, although many married parents are emotional wrecks. Marriage is the classic context for fusion. A lot of people rush into an emotionally fused marriage because they fear being alone and wind up replicating the dysfunctional relationships they had in their family of origin. It is possible to envisage a high status, degree educated, wealthy married father who is a psychopathic serial killer with very low differentiation of self. John Wayne Gacy, who raped, tortured, and murdered at least 33 men and boys in Chicago, is one such example. More common are superficially successful, well educated psychopaths who are not violent but are nonetheless emotionally immature, cheating liars, and addicts. A look at the upper echelons of the big corporations and the political representatives in pretty much any country will furnish many examples of this type. By contrast, Siddhartha Gautama, known as Buddha to his followers, didn't have a home, a formal degree, or a high-income job, and may therefore have been considered relatively low in differentiation on Bowen's fact-based scale. But of course, Siddhartha had far better emotional objectivity and self-discipline than John Wayne Gacy, and for that matter, most married parents. Siddhartha is said to have sat under a Bodhi tree for 49 days without eating or drinking. More prevalent are the monks of various religions, who are not generally known for their immaturity or emotional outbursts. There are even indications that monks and priests may have longer life expectancies than the average layperson. Granted, these examples are to some extent atypical, but anomalies are important for the advancement of theory and science. It is God's role to judge people exactly, and he does so on the basis of the extent to which each individual obeyed his will. For example, Matthew 7:21, "Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven." And John 3:36, "One who disobeys the Son won't see life, but the wrath of God remains on him." Naturally, what exactly God's will is differs for each individual, their situation, and their abilities, but it often boils down to how helpful they had been to God and to others. Care saw helpfulness as a marker of differentiation of self, but he placed less emphasis on it than other factors which may be done well or sinfully. For these reasons, the concept of a precise differentiation score is dubious, and it can at best be a vague, approximate measure with e.g. low, medium, and high levels based on differentiation from the negative emotional system, rather than being derived from facts like educational attainment or relationship status. Being married, well educated, employed in highly remunerative work, and a parent does not automatically make you emotionally mature. True differentiation of self is about emotional control, from which the facts often but don't always follow.